back to another episode of Zone Coverage. I'm Cody Schoeler here with Ryan Root, as always, ready to talk about some NFL action. We are going to go straight on into it with some news. As we get into that, just let me look that up real quick. So the first thing, we'll head into what is happening tonight. The Vikings are going to be without Adam Thielen, who sprained his ankle, I believe, last week. But Dalvin Cook, who got injured 2 games ago with a dislocated shoulder and a bit of a torn labrum, looks like the plan is for him to play tonight. So, Adam Thielen gaining Dalvin Cook for the Vikings tonight as they head into that game.
I mean, Dalvin Cook coming back obviously is a plus for this offense, considering they're still in the playoff hunt and whatnot. The Adam Thielen loss, I think, means more. However, like Dalvin Cook coming back, that does help a lot. But you got Alexander Mattison, who's just been a great backup running back who could honestly start for a few teams. But Adam Thielen, I mean, this is a top 10 passing offense in the league, so now it's all going to rely on Justin Jefferson, which there's a lot of worse receivers to work with in that case. But Adam Thielen being out for this game is honestly going to hurt them quite a bit, considering they're going against Pittsburgh, who's just as hungry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's going to lead to KJ Osborne having to step up, who has done it a bit in time. But yeah, I mean, even if Dalvin Cook does play, who knows what type of share he'll get. We've seen, guys like Aaron Jones come back and not get all the carries because they're still not 100%. So this could definitely be a game where they lean on the run game and use both of those running backs. And then obviously, Justin Jefferson, he's the main guy anyway, but definitely going to see more of him. Then we'll get into some news for the Chargers. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Chris Harris were all placed on the COVID list this week. Keenan Allen testing positive, and Mike Williams and Chris Harris, because of close contact, all have a chance to play this weekend still. Keenan Allen is vaccinated, so he just got to get in with some negative tests, and then Williams and Harris, just clearing the close contact protocol. But the Chargers, who are in the throes of a playoff race, could be without their two top receivers.
Yeah, I mean, what a terrible time for this to come up, in the last stretch of the season. Justin Herbert's had somewhat of a rocky season thus far, and having arguably his two top receivers, if we're excluding Eckler, having those two possibly out, and Chris Harris Jr. on the defensive side, it's not this team definitely needs to keep their momentum going forward. They just took out the Bengals last week in a very good performance, but they definitely need to keep the ball rolling. And having these speed bumps is not going to help if it means making a wild card in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for them, just going against the Giants, obviously you can't take anybody for granted, but would have been much more devastating in that game last week. But gonna need everything you can get in these wild card races. Two guys that will be out for the rest of the season, Marlon Humphrey and Jamal Adams, both placed on season-ending IR this week. Obviously, two teams in very different situations, but, definitely two players that have big impacts on their respective defenses.
Yeah, Jamal Adams is starting to have the label of, an injury-prone safety. And ever since coming to Seattle, it seems like there's just something going on, something's hurting, something's wrong. And he plays through a lot of it, but, out for the rest of the season. It's not really going to affect the Seahawks whatsoever. I mean, they're technically not kicked out of contention quite yet.
Neither are the Lions. But my guess with Jamal Adams is just overly cautious. Like if they were in the playoff hunt, then maybe, he's out for a week or two and like he ends up playing through it. But since, his long-term health is more important. It's probably another thing he could, tough through at least come playoff time. So, obviously good that they're being cautious because they need him to stay, healthy for next year.
But Marlon Humphrey, though, I mean, for a Ravens team that's gone through so many injuries this season and, losing out on I forget the running back for the season at the very beginning of the year. J.K. Dobbins for the entirety of the year, and Marlon Humphrey, who's one of the best defenders on this team. I mean, the Ravens are my pick to win the AFC, and this is not gonna really make my prediction look all that great anymore. But I mean, it could be worse. It could be Lamar. It could be Mark Andrews, I guess. But this team will find a way to work around it. This is a good playoff caliber team who can honestly make a divisional round by the very least. So this team will work around it. John Harbaugh, he's a reliable coach. I almost said Jim Harbaugh. Shout out to him.
Also a reliable coach now.
College football playoff, yeah.
But, I mean, this is a team that lost Marcus Peters in the preseason, I believe, or very early on. Now without Marlon Humphrey, who, I've been looking at some stuff. Like, you could make a case that he's the best, player in the NFL right now from Alabama, which is incredibly, that says something because there's like 50 players. So, he's somebody who maybe is a little, people don't necessarily throw him around with Jalen Ramsey and those guys, but he's, really good. And so that's going to be a huge loss for Baltimore going down the stretch with the defense that, is usually the strong suit, but is kind of, struggling at times. That certainly will not help. Let's go to Mark Ingram, another positive COVID test. He likely will be out on Sunday for the Saints, but Alvin Kamara is back practicing. No official word, but it looks like he could be able to start this week. And then Taysom Hill suffered the finger injury a week ago, but he looks to still be that starting quarterback and working through that. So, like we talked about last week with, we didn't know if we were going to get Ingram or Hill. We got them both, and now it doesn't look like we'll get Ingram, but could have Hill and Kamara.
I mean, the Saints got to put it all together right now. I mean, they're right there on the cusp of the wild card spot as well. I mean, you can't fall apart now. But Alvin Kamara, I mean, him possibly, helping out this coming Sunday. I mean, Mark Ingram was definitely a great signing for them, and I think he's helped this offense a lot. And Taysom Hill is Taysom Hill. So having Alvin Kamara back and practicing and whatnot should keep this team somewhat afloat. But I mean, clock's ticking for New Orleans. They're already out of the divisional race, if you ask me. So this is clock's ticking is all I gotta say.
Yeah, hopefully if Kamara's super healthy, they can run the offense largely him. That receiving core isn't great, but Hill ran for 100 yards last game, so we could see a potent ground attack for the rest of the year. Justin Fields will be the starter for the Bears on Sunday night against the Packers. He's back. He's at the helm. Andy Dalton filled in admirably, but this was always going to be Justin Fields' team for the future, and they're hoping that let's get a guy in there who Aaron Rodgers doesn't own yet. But I don't see that really having an impact either way when you're playing a team like Green Bay.
Yeah, maybe this is Matt Nagy's his Hail Mary for the rest of his coaching tenure. He's like, let's see if Justin Fields will just blow up and play really good.
Yeah. He's not going to in that offense.
Yeah. He should start for the rest of the season. For the rest of the season, Andy Dalton will go to a different team, I take it, and just you got to cut the BS with Justin Fields and just play him. I mean, we know this team isn't good. I mean, the Jets aren't good. They're starting Zach Wilson. The Jags suck. They're starting Trevor Lawrence. Those were obviously top 10 picks, and Justin Fields barely missed out. But you just got to play him at this rate. I mean, you're struggling to keep your top receiver in I'm forgetting his name.
Allen Robinson.
There you go. For some reason, I was thinking Brandon Marshall, and I was like, he's not even in the league anymore. But you just got to start him and just roll with the punches. I mean, they're not out of playoff contention quite yet, but
nobody is in the NFC. But yeah, I mean, it's about development now. Time to look for the future. Time for Matt Nagy to convince the owner to keep, or the GM to keep him around a little bit longer. Hopefully that doesn't work out. But yeah, I mean, we'll see maybe some good things happen with that, but I don't see that this week. And then Chase Edmonds has been designated to return from the IR for the Cardinals. The team with the best record in the NFL will probably be getting another boost to its high-powered offense soon. It's not going to change a whole bunch. Obviously, it goes from James Conner kind of being the main guy to going back into that platoon setup, but good for the Cardinals to be getting reinforcements.
Yeah, this is bad for James Conner fantasy owners. I'll say that. Where you can basically bet on a touchdown every single week with them. But obviously, Arizona has to keep their record up to keep that number one seed spot. But with Green Bay having the win over them, they don't have any room for mistakes really if they want to get that home field advantage. So Edmonds will help. I'm more focused on Kyler Murray's health going forward. I mean, great to have Edmonds back, but I'm trying to get Kyler Murray's health back in shape and get DeAndre Hopkins back into his form. I mean, that's what's going to propel this team in the playoffs.
And that's a way to keep Kyler Murray healthy is, Chase Edmonds and James Conner, whether it's, rushes or whether it's just easy throws, keep the hits off of him, which, something he's very good at. But yeah, I mean, anytime you're getting a player back and, this close to the end of the season, especially a guy who hasn't, missed some time, but not like he's missing the whole year. Very good for him and for them. But now we are going to do a little playoff picture update. We will be doing this on our Thursdays, up until the playoffs actually start, just to, we made our picks a little bit ago. Now we're going to actually, see how they're doing after just the 1 week. But in the AFC, it is not wanting to load. All right, here we go. In the AFC, we have Patriots, Titans, Ravens, Chiefs as the top 4 seeds and division winners. And then Chargers, Bengals, Bills as the wild card teams in that order, with the Steelers and the Colts, very close behind. And then Raiders, Browns, Broncos, Dolphins, all, technically in the mix. But what stands out to you about that? I know we can go see what we all picked, but, not a huge change so far.
Not a huge change, but Indianapolis is coming. Like I think Indianapolis is going to have a good late stretch here, because they're, other than Pittsburgh, they're the only team that's above 500 that's not in the wild card.
You didn't even pick. You didn't even pick them to make it when we did this.
I know I did, yeah. But Indianapolis, I mean, they do seem like a wild card team. Not like I do think there's a difference between a wild card team and a playoff team, right? Because a playoff team, you're thinking, has a chance to win the division. I don't think Indianapolis has a chance to win a division, but they are a wild card team. They are a team that could shock, one of the division winners in the first round, and they're getting it together now. Carson Wentz is still putting on a well above average year. Jonathan Taylor's Derrick Henry's younger brother, basically, and nothing's really stopping Indianapolis, but that's the one that sticks out to me. And Cleveland just continues to just plummet down the standings, which is real painful to see.
Yeah, I want to ask you about New England. You didn't pick them to win the division. You had them as the number 1 wild card at the 5 spot. They obviously beat the Bills this week on Monday. They are now in first place. They have their bye this week, but they're 2 games up on the Bills with 1 head-to-head game remaining. But the Bills, as we'll get into, play the Buccaneers this week. So the Patriots could be locking up pretty soon that AFC East.
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge win for New England on Monday. It was somewhat of a irritable loss for Bills fans all around the world. I mean, having them throw 4 passes the entire game.
Yeah.
But New England just absolutely beat down Buffalo's defense and just wore them out basically. And obviously, New England is no slouch, so Buffalo did lose against a really good team, and they're facing arguably a better team. arguably a worse team, however you want to fall on that. But
Mhm.
they're not getting rid of Brady quite yet, so they got to play Brady this Sunday. This is a must-win for Buffalo, even though it's it doesn't exactly take them out of playoff contention, but I think this is a must-win because if you secure a win over Tampa Bay, then I mean you can kind of take down most teams at that point. You just got to get back to the Buffalo 2020 days where you could just blow out teams real easily, and you have one of the best offenses in the league. But as far as New England goes, I don't see them slowing down really, other than that next Bills matchup. The Bills might come back with a little bit of a vengeance, but even, that's going to be in Foxborough.
And even if that happens, I mean, they've got cushion there. So yeah, but I mean, in the Bills,
they're playing,
they're
Bills playing Indy, they're playing Jacksonville and Miami.
Indianapolis,
the Patriots could easily go undefeated for the rest of the year.
Yeah, for sure. But the Bills now, they might have to fight for a playoff spot. I mean, they're behind the Chargers and the Bengals right now, and I don't think either of those teams play the Buccaneers and the Patriots. So, if they lose those two games, they're looking at 9-7, and like you said, the surging Colts are coming up along with, the Steelers. They've got that wonky tie in there. But we can hop on over to the NFC. Right now, we have Arizona in first place, followed by Green Bay, Tampa Bay, and the Dallas Cowboys, all as the division winners or leaders. And then we've got the Rams, Washington, and San Francisco. Both teams we did not pick in ours. And then right behind them, you've got the Eagles, obviously a half game out. They've got their bye this week. Then Minnesota, Carolina, Atlanta, New Orleans, all 5-7, technically, one game out. So, we knew it was going to be contentious, but Washington, at the time, they hadn't played their Monday night game, which vaulted up into the playoff conversation. So now they're up and they're hot.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota was definitely in this conversation before this past Sunday, where Detroit gets their first win. I was real happy for Detroit this past Sunday, but Minnesota, that was a bad loss for them to take this late in the season to a winless team. I mean, they're going to have to put it together tonight against Pittsburgh, but San Fran and Washington obviously stick out as the wild card teams because I don't even think some Washington and 49er fans would say that this is a wild card team. So I think we may have a potential to have a losing record team in the NFC wild card. I think there's a potential. I don't think it probably will happen, but
it's easier now because you can go 8-9 before you'd have to go, because there is no 500 team anymore, before you'd have to go 7-9, which you've only seen times. But yeah, I mean, certainly possible depending on how these play out. But I want to ask you once again, the number one seed in the conference, you did not pick to win their division. You had Arizona. I had Arizona. You had LA. They play each other this week. We'll get into that in a bit. But Arizona, I think we started taking them seriously a while ago, but now I think people really need to take note with Kyler back, because the defense is just firing on all cylinders. This is a really good team. This is a team that could get the number one seed in the NFC.
They could get the number one seed. They got the Rams on Monday Night Football, which is definitely a losable game, and the Rams are, like you said, my pick to win the division. Then they got Detroit. I'm not saying it's a 0% chance that Detroit wins, but then they got Indianapolis and Dallas back-to-back. Both of those teams, I mean, one of them is easily leading their division. The other one is looking like a great wild card team. So those are respectively losable games too. They did lose to Carolina. They didn't have Kyler Murray, but they lost to Carolina technically. So they are not a horrible team.
Did you say Dallas easily winning their division?
Dallas easily winning their division.
They're only 2 games up on Washington, and Washington, they've played each other twice down the stretch, and Philly for that matter. Might be 2.5.
Dallas will get it. I mean, the only team I say that could have any sort of shot would probably be Philly. I think Washington's some dumb luck lately.
We'll see. I mean, they play each other this week. But if Washington wins that game this week, that is that's a 1-game advantage right there. So they're coming up, and if somehow this comes back around, I hopped off this bandwagon so long ago, but I told you I would keep like 1% on it, but I'm still not bought. They're not the team I thought they're going to be, but they're in that playoff picture, which is pretty crazy. And just the funniest part, the Lions still mathematically able to make the playoffs, but bet on it. I would.
What is the odds if you do bet on it though? Like what if you put $100 on the Lions making the playoffs? You probably get like 10 grand or something. I swear.
Is it even? They don't have odds listed on FanDuel. Oh, it's probably different.
If there's any rich Lions fans that are just like, let's just see what happens.
Yeah, probably because they know they'll get so burned on it. Like if the odds are so bad, they a simple 35-point plan to get the Detroit Lions into the playoffs. It would be like 1,000,000 to 1, or not exactly. But
if Lions made the playoffs, like that's a documentary right there. How do you go 10-1 and then make the playoffs? Like that would be insane.
I mean, it's a thing where nobody's going to list odds because it's just you're just going to lose so much money if that happens. But I would not advise anybody to bet on that. But some things that if you are into that you can bet on would be the games happening this week. You're going to not have as good of odds as Detroit Lions to make the playoffs, but it will be much more manageable starting obviously tonight with Steelers Vikings. As we talked about, Minnesota is a 3.5-point favorite. I had a real good week last week. I think the only game I predicted incorrectly was the Thursday night game and then the Lions beating the Vikings. Every other game I called, including Pittsburgh over Baltimore on that 2-point conversion. So I'm going to go back with Pittsburgh and think, I don't know what it is, but they're playing, I don't want to call it hot, but like a lukewarm maybe, which is a step up from where they were earlier. But I don't know. They're starting to figure things out. Big Ben now, leaking, or I don't know if he said it or what, that it's most likely his final season. Now he's got some, right off into the sunset momentum going with him. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh in this one.
Yeah, maybe it was good juju for him to say, hey, I'm going to be leaving after this year. And then Steelers decided to turn up. I mean, I weirdly kind of agree with you on Pittsburgh because Minnesota, losing to a winless team is going to ruin the morale of any team, regardless if you're Minnesota or Green Bay. You look at the Rams last year when they lost to the Jets, and then they lose to Seattle, I think, the week after. It shakes up teams when you lose to real bottom-feeding teams. But I'm weirdly going with Pittsburgh too. I think Big Ben is obviously going out there like Peyton Manning in 2015, 2016, right? Like
2015,
yeah. Peyton Manning played like absolute garbage.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 50, and then he plays in Super Bowl 50 and he plays okay. So if we're possibly getting a reboot, a sequel, whatever you want to call it, for Big Ben here to make we'll start with a playoff run. I'm not gonna say anything crazy about the Super Bowl or anything, but I'll go with Pittsburgh too.
Yeah, well, it's probably a good idea for you to just go with what I'm going with. 'Cause I'm on a hot streak right now. Shout out to Adam Schefter, just saying Dalvin Cook will play tonight. Should have a regular workload, so that is a good thing for the Vikings. But yeah, you lose to Detroit, I'm probably not going to pick you again. Something about Pittsburgh, man. I don't know. I felt something in my bones last week and it paid off. So I'm
So something tells me TJ Watt's going to absolutely antagonize tonight.
He antagonized Lamar Jackson. He had 3.5 sacks last week. He now leads the NFL in sacks. And, we've talked about Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year for a long time, which he was a front runner. The Browns have faltered. TJ Watt is now making, a run for that as well. So
we'll have to do our award race update next Monday.
Yeah, we'll have to do our we'll have to make award picks coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, TJ Watt, have a good time against these Minnesota Vikings line that could be very helpful for them.
Yeah. So the next game we have here is Baltimore at Cleveland, an AFC North matchup at 10 a.m. to start out the 10 a.m. games. Cleveland as a favorite in this, as a 2.5 favorites. I'd be taking the Ravens all day here.
I don't know what the hell is going on there.
Yeah, like Cleveland, that Cleveland is having a weird season when fans aren't necessarily mad about the losses. They're more so debating why Baker Mayfield's a good quarterback. It's like Cleveland's just been this weird kind of see-through team. It's like they win some, they lose some, but nobody really cares. It's like we're watching the Bengals, Steelers, and Ravens. And the fact that they're not right up there with them is kind of sad. So Baltimore is going to bounce back after a real tough loss last week. Cleveland, I mean, they have their identity, don't get me wrong, but they're just not clicking fully. I mean, it doesn't mean that there needs to be any fires on the coaching staff, but this is just not their year, really.
Do you remember the last time these two teams played?
Not off the top of my head.
Because it was 2 weeks ago on Sunday Night Football when the Ravens won 16-10 and Lamar Jackson threw 4 interceptions. So we've seen this game very recently, and the Ravens probably played their worst game of the season. Any game, any way they play other than that will probably be better, and I don't see the outcome necessarily. The Browns, they had the bye week, but, they're just at a point where they're banged up. They've got a lot of stuff happening. Baker Mayfield has not been healthy for a while, and it's, leading to diminishing returns. But, Baltimore as an underdog, I think, is just, a mistake, a huge mistake for them. I think Baltimore will go ahead and win that, and that's, free points right there.
It's like Cleveland is 500 technically. They're 6-6.
Yeah,
but it doesn't feel like it. They feel like a 3-9 team.
Well, it's because I still have that up there. Their last win, they beat the Browns 13-10, and then this was lost to the Ravens. They beat the Browns they beat the Lions 13-10. Then the week before that, they got crushed by the Patriots. And then the week before that, over a month ago, was last time they actually looked like a good football team when they kind of, kicked the Bengals' ass. But it's been a while, and at this point in the season, in December, you don't regain some form that you lost a while ago. It's about who's hot. And although the Ravens are not hot either, they're playing better. And they need a win. You talk about division races. The Bengals are, a game behind. Pittsburgh is a weird, 1 or 2.5. Yeah, because they've got the tie. So Baltimore's going to need, all the wins they can get.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking Baltimore on that one. Jacksonville at Tennessee. How much do you think Tennessee's going to win by?
Well, Tennessee's not the same team that they have been.
True, they don't have Derrick Henry, and I'm sure Julio Jones or AJ Brown is going through some sort of injury.
Julio Jones, I think, is he could come back. But Titans have lost 2 in a row. Patriots, they lost to the Texans, 2 games ago. They're also just coming off their bye, but the Jaguars are not trending in the right direction. The Jaguars are, not just one of those teams I think that could pull it off. The Titans have the luck of a very easy schedule down the stretch, playing the Jaguars and the Texans. But, if they, mess one of these up, Indianapolis obviously has to gain games on them because Tennessee won both matchups early in the season. If one of those games was happening, later in the season, that could be a real problem for them. So they're probably going to go ahead and win that division. But, this is not the same team it's been. They just need to hold on and get, Derrick Henry back, because they're still in play for the 1 seed too, with how easy that schedule is. But yeah, I expect them to keep going and to do their thing and handle the Jaguars. I could see Jacksonville possibly covering, but I don't think they're playing particularly good either. I think Tennessee.
No, I think Titans cover. This will be a double-digit game. But Tennessee definitely has to take advantage of this game, considering that Indianapolis is on bye. So they could have a 2-win advantage over Indy, and that could really help them in the long run. So we're both taking Tennessee there.
Yeah, I'm changing my mind, though. I'm picking Jacksonville to cover because, the Titans haven't shown me anything in a month that suggests they could beat Jacksonville by more than a score.
Fair enough. Las Vegas at Kansas City for a AFC West matchup.
Yeah, that's a big one.
This is fairly interesting, and I don't think a lot of people are giving it as much credit as it probably deserves. I mean, obviously Kansas City is finding its groove again, and like you said, where teams kind of roll with their momentum going through December, and Kansas City does not look like the same Kansas City we saw in the first third of the season. So
no. The defense is good.
Their defense is playing a lot better, and if we look at Las Vegas, this is definitely not the same team we saw in the first third of the season. I mean, we were out here saying Las Vegas is going to be a playoff team. They could win the division. They could,
You said in our playoff predictions, you picked them as one of your wild card teams.
I know, and they're
still in the race.
I mean, they're 1-4 in their last 5.
Yeah.
Those losses being against Cincinnati, Washington, Kansas City, as well as Giants. They had a great win over Dallas on Thanksgiving, but this team has not been the same team. Obviously, the Raiders have gone through just a hint of drama and hiatus and whatnot. But
yeah,
I can't go against the Chiefs here when they're at home. It's a divisional game. The Raiders, I don't think, have enough firepower or enough of a foundation to take on Kansas City on the road and take them down. It's just not the same team that we once knew however many months ago or even last year. So I'm picking Kansas City to win, and I'm picking them to cover too. They're a 9.5-point favorite. I'll take them to cover.
Yeah, interesting again because we talked about this last week with Denver being a similar underdog as the Raiders. Kansas City did end up covering, but it was kind of close. Not a close game, but it was close to being that.
I take the Broncos over the Raiders if they played right now. I think the Raiders are arguably the worst team in the division right now. I'm not saying that they're a bad team, but I would take the Broncos over them right now. Yeah,
I mean, I think for me it was more of just I think Denver has a type of offense that could keep it closer and just possessing and controlling a game. Vegas is this weird team that isn't built to win shootouts but tries to win shootouts. We see it work out at times, but Kansas City is at a point I talked about a few weeks ago. I think they run the table. I think they win everything, win out, maybe drop one. I think they could even get the 1 seed. New England's kind of holding them off now, but in order to do that, the defense has stepped up and the offense has been struggling in these games. They beat Dallas and they beat Denver, and they've won these games without a great Kansas City Chiefs offensive games. But when it does click, which it did click against the Raiders a few weeks ago when they played, it works, and it works really well, like the Chiefs of old. So I don't know if we see another 41 to whatever game that we saw the last time they played the Raiders, but we've seen this story before not too long ago. I think Kansas City does it, and I think Kansas City does it emphatically and gets that cover as well.
So next we have Saints at Jets. Saints are a 5.5-point favorite over the Jets. Look, I don't think the Jets are going to win, but I would not be surprised if they did, because I did pick the Saints to be one of my wild card teams a couple of weeks ago, but something about the Saints seems to be falling apart. Obviously, they're without Mark Ingram. Alvin Kamara is coming in at the nick of time to replace him. Taysom Hill's going through stuff. They don't have Jameis Winston anymore. This team's going through some stuff. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. The Jets are always going through stuff, and we're not entirely sure who the quarterback's going to be. Is Zach Wilson back? I mean,
I think he's back. He's playing, not great, but it's his team for the time being. They got nothing to, play for. Let it ride.
Yeah, I mean,
figuring things out.
The same thing with like Justin Fields. You might as well run.
Yeah.
You might as well start him the remainder of the game, or remainder of the season. I mean, the Jets, if I'm remembering correctly, I'm trying to see. Didn't they have two like Johnsons on the team? Yeah, they have two Johnsons on the team, I think. Didn't they have two players on the team with the exact same name or something?
Michael Carter. They drafted a Michael Carter running back and a Michael Carter the second corner.
Okay, that's what it was.
They might both be injured right now. I know
at this point. They don't know what to do.
I know the running back's injured. Michael Carter, the running back.
Yeah.
I mean,
it would probably be a huge game changer, right? I mean, 200 yards, something like that. But I'll pick the Saints because
they're doing pretty good.
But
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they drop it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Saints. I mean, they didn't look great against Dallas. Obviously, a ton of interceptions. I think having Alvin Kamara back really will help because they don't have an offensive focal point. Obviously, Michael Thomas is out for the year. The receivers just aren't great in general. Deontay Harris, who might have been their best receiver, he's suspended for a few games for a DUI. They just don't have an offensive identity when they've got those guys. It kind of was, Taysom Hill doing stuff. Now they still got him to rely on, and they've got Alvin Kamara to just, get the ball to a bunch. That's what they should do, and I think they'll win because the Jets' offense is not very good.
Fair enough. I mean, you can never put your faith in the Jets, even if they are playing like a college football team. I would still be hesitant. Now we got Seattle at Houston on the road. Seattle is an 8-point favorite over the Texans. I would take the Texans to cover, but this should be a Seattle win. Do I think it absolutely will be 100%, 90%, 80% even? No. I think there's definitely a chance that the Seahawks drop this game because the Seahawks have been dropping nearly every game. Last week seemed to be almost textbook Seattle, going up against a division rival, great home game, great win. But now they're playing a bottom-feeding team on the road. Seattle used to be somewhat of an underrated road team, in recent history. But I can't necessarily trust them to take on the Texans on the road, let alone, the Jaguars or the Jets, and maybe even taking on the Lions in a couple of weeks. We'll have further thoughts on that. But Seattle, I will go with Seattle to win, but Houston will cover. It's still going to be some scrappy, crappy game for the Seattle offense where DK Metcalf is going to get very little targets. Tyler Lockett may catch a couple passes. Russell Wilson's going to do whatever the play tells him to do. There's going to be all sorts of stuff out the way, but then Houston is Houston at the end of the day. So I'll pick Seattle to win. I won't be shocked if they lose. Same thing with the Saints game.
I mean, another game we disagreed on. I told you last week the way it was trending, they were getting closer and closer. It finally was going to break. They won a game. And the defense has been actually pretty good. It's been overshadowed by how bad the offense has been and how the offense can't stay on the field and the defense gets tired out. And no
more Jamal Adams for the rest of the year too. So I mean,
things clicked a bit. The way you fluster the Seahawks offense is you get pressure, which the offensive line has been really bad when it comes to that. But I don't see the Texans necessarily being able to do that. I hope that the Seattle will be able to just move the ball more. And if that's the case, they're going to win. Seattle is a better team, And I mean, they beat by 7. They should beat Houston by 10 or, whatever. So, I mean, this is a team that just had to bench Tyrod Taylor for Davis Mills, and Davis Mills didn't look great when he was playing. So the Texans they don't have anything going for them right now. And so I don't see this happening, and I'll take Seattle.
Which is why I say this should be a win. Will it?
Yeah.
We'll see.
It will.
We have Dallas on the road going up against Washington. Dallas is a 4-point favorite. This is also a very interesting game.
Oh, come on.
To see.
You know where I'm going.
I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going. I'm back on the bandwagon, baby.
But this is...
Who's hotter than Washington right now? Taylor Heineke.
The Patriots?
Okay, yeah. in the NFC, Washington is there. Taylor Heineke is just a big man, working his magic, making these plays. I'm gonna take them there. They I think have become the team this year of like they just win close games. I mean, they rolled off a freaking 10-minute drive against Tampa Bay to lock that game away. If this game is close in the fourth quarter, if a game is close in the fourth quarter, like a drive to either win or just preserve a win, Washington is for somehow up there amongst all these teams you could pick. I mean, even the Rams seem to mess up when sometimes the pressure is on, but Washington, when they're like, all right, there's 7 minutes, let's go get this, they get it done. They just seem to get it done. I think they'll do it again. Yeah, Dallas is better, but Washington, we'll see. If they end up winning this division, I'll be happy, even though I gave up on them. But they're still my preseason pick.
I mean, other than probably Green Bay is the only other team I can think of that you can count on for a final drive or a time.
And that's an Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams thing.
Absolutely. But there is something
the way
about
Washington.
Right. There is something about the Washington chemistry going on that's working. I got to tip my hat off to Ron Rivera just for flipping this team around because, like you said, we gave up on them weeks ago. But this is an interesting game. I think I'll ride Washington with you. For some reason, I can't picture the Cowboys winning. Yes, the Cowboys are the better team, like you said. They have the better quarterback, the better offense, even the better defense, really. But something about Washington, I think, is just going to shock some people. I'm going to go with the underdog as well and pick Washington. I have a good feeling alongside with you, so we'll see.
Even with the cover, like when was the last time Washington even lost a game by more than 4 points? As I look this up, it's probably going to be like 2 weeks ago. But they play. Well, I mean, their last 4 games were all wins by them, and then before that they lost to the Broncos by 7. But like they just seem to play. I mean, they've been playing close games. Their wins are close. I think their losses, if they have them, will also be close. So this I'm back on. I'm not calling division win. I love I'd like to see them make the playoffs. Imagine 3 NFC East teams making the playoffs this year after sending a team with a losing record last year. That would just be hilarious.
It would just go to show how this is one of the weirdest seasons in recent history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So we'll see if you want to back my team now. We got Atlanta at Carolina, with Carolina as a 2.
Which one is your team?
Favorite? The Panthers, baby. I'm still with I
gave
up on Washington. I gave up on Carolina, but now I'm back on Carolina. I mean,
why are you?
As long as they don't start Cam Newton, I think they have a chance.
That's what I said. I was on Carolina the 1 week I actually was on them because they weren't playing Cam Newton. I think they lost to. I think I picked them over. I picked them over Washington. Yeah, that was my mistake. So.
And
not doing that
McCaffrey's
again.
out for the rest of the year, right?
Yeah, he's out.
So
I'm gonna pick. I mean, the Carolina fired their offensive coordinator during their bye week. That's not a great look. I think that goes to show what is going on there. I've seen some things saying, what's going to happen to Matt Rule. I mean, the offensive coordinator getting fired. The slate's never bad. Carolina technically still in the playoff hunt. Only 5-7, but so are the Falcons. So one of these teams is going to gain a little ground. I think it's going to be the Falcons. I think their offense might finally be coming around. They almost got me the cover against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay just had to kick this like stupid field goal with like a minute and a half left to go from 10 to 13. But Russell Gage is getting involved. Kyle Pitts needs to get the ball more, but Cordero Patterson is somehow this like fantasy marvel. But yeah, Carolina, I don't know what their plan is at quarterback. I'm not really paying attention, to be honest, but if Cam Newton goes out there, I would be incredibly confident that they will not win.
Well, if Cam Newton goes out there, I don't think it's a guaranteed loss. It'd be exciting. It'd be fun. But I guess I'll kind of go with Atlanta too because
I thought this was your team.
I know. But the moment I saw Christian McCaffrey's out for the year, I was like, well, they don't have anybody to really carry him through on offense. So this has every potential to be like a very, crap game. I mean, the over-under on this is 42.5. I'd probably take the under on it. I feel like this could be a game that's settled in the teens. Like,
does 5 for 21 for 92 yards and 2 interceptions mean anything to you?
Yeah, and so does the previous week's stat line where he had 2 or 3 total touchdowns or something like that.
That was the last time. I called it from that first game. Cam Newton does not look good throwing the football. He cannot the football. He's Taysom Hill with an MVP, and I'd rather have Taysom Hill right now. And so I'm not going to pick the Panthers.
He's played 2 games. If we see the third game he plays bad too, that means he has 2 bad games and 1 good game. And then
but he didn't. He was bad at the end of last year too.
Well, sure, he's not the same Cam Newton, but what else do the Panthers got at this point? I mean, they don't want to start Darnold, so Cam Newton, I mean, let's just roll the dice and see what happens.
When your quarterback can't physically throw the ball, that's bad. If he just can't make the right read, he figures it out. But he just can't throw the ball. He has to use all of his strength to throw a 5-yard out. And they're not even he only ran it 3 times in that game. They're not using him the way they should use him.
They need to use him as the Cam Newton.
So
for sure.
They need to use him as Taysom Hill. That's what they need to do.
So now for the 1:00 games, we'll start it out with Detroit on the road against Denver. Denver is a 10-point favorite. Now look, if I was a sports bettor, which I'm not, I'm glad that I'm not, I'd put money on the Lions just because I think it could happen that they get another win. I mean, this is a team that just took down the Vikings, which are still in the playoff hunt, but they took down a division rival that should have absolutely beat the Lions. And now they're playing, I think, a similar team in the AFC in a similar situation in the AFC West. So they're on the road in this game, so they don't have the Motor City backing them up to have that last second win. But
yeah, all those
if
great
I was a
fans
sports
showing
bettor,
up to...
I'd bet on the Lions. That's just hanging on to a dollar and a dream. The Broncos are going to win this game. So
yeah, I like them to cover. I think Detroit Lions hitting these backdoor covers has been a nice thing. Get the 10-point cushion. If they win, you still win. I just thought watching that game, my thought seeing them win and score that touchdown. What my thought was? I was watching Jared Goff running around with his hands in the air, excited after that touchdown to Amon St. Brown, and I said, "This guy was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago."
Yep.
3 years ago, whatever it was. And he is running around like it's the best moment of his life. He played in a Super Bowl, and now he's celebrating one win so he doesn't go down as the quarterback on the worst team in history. I mean, the fall from not even grace, but the fall from just anything is just terrible for him.
Didn't the Vikings make the NFC Championship game in 2017, 2018?
Yeah,
with the Minnesota Miracle?
Yeah.
I think
but
it was
I mean,
the championship, yeah. Because they got crushed by
it was the year, Philly. Yeah. So it was the year before the Rams made, I think. But I mean, not only to go, imagine this, you're getting told, hey, you don't live in LA anymore, you live in Detroit. That's bad enough. Hey, you're not on one of the best teams in the NFL now. You're on Detroit. It's just been a bad time for him. But at least he's making $30 million. So that's something. But yeah, Detroit maybe gets a cover. But what do you know? Have you seen Taylor Heineke's contract? We're going to backtrack a little bit.
I have not, but I was thinking about it while we were talking.
He might be the most motivated quarterback in the NFL. It's not a lot, but it's incentive laden. Every win that he plays, 75% of the snaps, he gets $125,000. So he's literally playing for that money every week. He's made $500,000 the last 4 weeks just off being a baller. So I mean, he's got seeing that's straight up cash every time he wins. So, who wouldn't be playing like that?
Is this the last year of his contract?
I think he signed a couple years. I don't know how the incentives are, but that just bringing up Goff's contract made me think of that. So, I mean, who's more motivated than that? And well, Goff, he's got his money no matter how bad he plays. So, clearly not as motivated. But yeah, Detroit won't win, but they could make it to where you still remember the game's going on and you don't forget about it because nothing happens. That's possible.
So now we got Giants at Chargers. The Chargers are a 10-point favorite over the Giants, which really, that's kind of a slap to the face to the Giants. I mean, I don't disagree with it. I'm just saying, like, it's funny to see that spread for a non-division winning team right now. Like if they were playing the Packers in Green Bay, I mean, what would this spread be? Like 16, 15? I don't know.
Who, the Giants?
Yeah, the Giants going on the road to playing Green Bay.
Green Bay's got 12.5 over Chicago. So
it would be probably, I would say
maybe 13.
More. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that game a little bit.
Yeah, Giants are, the Giants, who's their quarterback? Mike Glennon is going to be Jake Fromm. It might be Jake freaking Fromm. So I think that's where the high numbers coming in, and the guy might be making his first start, and who knows who he's even going to have around him. But Chargers were, they were on the outside looking in when we talked about the playoffs thing. I thought they could make a run, be that second best team in that division. They're doing it. That win over the Bengals was huge because that would have been, put a lot of space for Cincinnati if they won. But, Justin Herbert is playing really well. We'll see. Obviously, having the receivers or not will be huge. Jalen Guyton and Josh Palmer. I should have asked you if you could have named another receiver on that team, because it's one of the only teams I could think of that like has two big name receivers, but then like nobody that anybody would even recognize behind them. It's really weird. But I think they're the type of team that if they are without those receivers, they can still figure something out. Let's go to Austin Eckler. They can, get guys open with schemes. So I like LA, and so I'll take them as well.
Yeah, can't put really any chips in the Giants pot or anything.
Not on Jake freaking Fromm.
Not on Jake Fromm. Whoever's going to be in the backfield, whoever wants to maybe catch a ball.
Saquon's not injured again yet.
I'm disregarding Saquon.
He's back. You said you needed to wait to see him play, and now he's played. So everybody else is injured, but he's healthy for now.
Well, we'll see what Saquon does against the Chargers.
It's not enough. Chargers do have bad rush defense, so maybe
he can go on a big run and tear that ACL of his again. We got San Fran on the road playing the Bengals. Again, a weirdly intriguing game because I don't think anybody, like if you ask somebody before the season started, week 14, San Fran's going on the road to play Cincy. Like, who's waiting to see that game? Who's thinking to themselves, oh, that's a really interesting game? Like maybe 49ers thought Trey Lance would be starting right now, but we fast forward to week 14 now, and these are teams who nobody really, definitely people thought the Niners were going to be one of the top teams. They've been a little lackluster, but
they're favored to win the division.
Everybody thought Cincy was going to be like a 5-win team.
These
guys are definitely fighting.
The standout. Maybe you could convince somebody that this is like a 1980s Super Bowl and then they'll be excited. But this is a nice like B tier game. Maybe I'm not saying either team's
solid game. Like
this isn't like flex this to Sunday night. What the heck is this doing at 1:00? But it's one where you go, what's interesting? Like it should be compelling.
And I think
I like San Francisco in this.
I think for either team, if they win this game, you can definitely label these as good wins, as big wins, because you're playing a team who's in the exact same situation that you're in.
Yeah, they're both technically playoff teams. Yeah.
I'm gravitating towards Cincinnati here because the 49ers I do not have in my playoff prediction. I don't believe. I'd be astounded if I did. No, I don't.
You do have the Saints though. So.
Yep. So it just goes to show how much stuff changes this year. But I have the Bengals as the 7th seed in the AFC. This would be a perfect game for them to win, to have a really good spot in that wild card spot, because they technically are in the wild card right now. They got to do everything they can to maintain their spot. This is very close to a coin flip. Literally, you could ask Vegas too, because the Niners are a 1-point favorite on the road, which I'm not a huge fan of that spread at all. I'd take Cincy. I'd take Cincy to cover win, basically, right?
Not much happened. I like San Francisco. George Kittle looked good last week. Elijah Mitchell, run the ball. When Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, the offense looks really good. I picked Cincinnati to fall out of the playoffs. They've got a really tough stretch to end the season, and so and I just think the offense isn't what it really was. Jamar Chase isn't playing the same way he was. T. Higgins is kind of taken over, but I think San Francisco, they lost, but they played pretty well. And a Seattle win is better than it looks on paper because, when they're fully talented, they're still, pretty solid, especially in that division. But I'll take San Francisco.
So the last 1:00 game on Sunday, we have a very important game for both of these teams, really. Maybe one more than the other, but we have Buffalo on the road against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay as a 3.5-point favorite. I think you could argue that it should be more. But Buffalo.
I think Tampa Bay is like
Tom Brady.
I think Tampa Bay's kind of struggles might be leading. Not that they've been dropping games, but they haven't been playing exceptionally great recently.
It's hard to look at a team with a 9-3 record and say but this team is, or but no, they kind of suck. Or they're 9-3.
They're still good.
The Steelers last year, where they were 11-0 at some point, where it was but they're 11-0. They're doing something right. So
they're not bad.
I would love to go with my gut and pick Buffalo here. I do think, it's not a guaranteed win for either side.
That's your heart.
Yeah, going on the – so, this matchup right here is my dream Super Bowl matchup as of right now. If I could have Bills and the Buccaneers playing the Super Bowl and have the Bills
in
the Super Bowl.
You don't want Bills Pats? You don't want Bills Pats?
No, that Brady's not there anymore. It has to be –
not Bills Pats. You don't want Pats Bucks. Pats Bucks.
No. That would be great for Patriots fans, but no, Bills Bucks in the Super Bowl would be a dream come true. That'd be a huge story.
Has Tom Brady ever lost to Buffalo? Come on. Last week I said I'm picking the better Bill. I think the Buffalo should have to legally change their name to the Buffalo Bill Belichick's after that game. But if anything, I don't know the level of competition between those two, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, but I think Brady is looking at, maybe Tampa Bay will run the ball just 3 times and they're just going to throw it the whole time and then be like, guess what? Buffalo's not good at anything. But Tampa Bay's a better team at this point. I do think they'll lean on the ground game. Leonard Fournette has been going off lately, just in time. Playoff Lenny is, popping his head out a little bit early this year. But the Bucks pretty good. And I've had concerns about the Bills going back quite a bit. So this is not new territory for me. I'm going to pick Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay as a 3.5 favorite. I would definitely pick Bills to cover because I think this will be a close game. The Buccaneers nor the Bills are blowing out the other team. But I will go with my gut. Buffalo will win this game. It'll be a good win for them. They need this win because they go right back to New England the week after, right? So
they need to start picking up wins for the wild card picture too. That's a thing because we talk about if LA and Cincinnati both win, they need to keep up with those two.
because they have Tampa Bay. Actually, the week after they play Carolina, and the day after Christmas they play New England again. So they have 3 gimme wins. So this definitely could be a 10-win game, but they need to get in the category.
Carolina is like, they're not great, but it's not playing, the bottom feeders. Like they could put up a fight. You have to play a decent game to eke out a win there. But yeah, I mean, this is a huge game, but I think Tampa Bay, is the better team here, and they'll continue to do so.
Has the chance to be the game of the week, if you ask me. That could be the game
definitely
most people tune into. We'll talk about Sunday Night Football because I don't know if we're going back-to-back weeks where we talk about Monday night.
Nah, we'll hit Monday on Monday because that'll be. That's another really good one.
Yeah. Sunday Night Football, Chicago at Green Bay. Green Bay as the 12.5-point favorite for Sunday Night Football. So I mean, I don't think Chicago has a chance, but Green Bay is a 12.5-point favorite. I'd take Chicago to cover. I think that's a huge spread.
I think they have one of the worst offenses in the NFL. I think the Green Bay Packers, I've talked about it for weeks and weeks, have one of the best defenses in the NFL. And, then you've got Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and you're set. I think Green Bay. I mean, Aaron Rodgers owns Chicago, and he will own Chicago on Sunday.
Maybe they'll start just throwing some experimental plays out there on Sunday night. I mean, they'll be on offense and like, well, we're up by 3-0, so I guess we might as well just start doing the fun stuff, and they're just doing like triple play action jet sweep.
Or maybe they'll just do Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams backyard football. Hey, get open, and just they could do that all game and win.
Yeah, work it with the Pablo Sanchez of the team and just throw it deep.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, those two don't need their playbook. Just says like throw, catch. That's all it is. Green Bay. I mean, when you're at the top of the league, you win games against teams like Chicago, especially a team that very well and have already beaten once this year. But that could possibly be interesting. We'll talk about a very interesting Monday night game on Monday when we get back to you with some recap from over the weekend, seeing what went down, seeing what we got right, and hopefully not we got wrong. But that will do it for us today. Remember to tune in to us, like I said, on Monday, and then Thursday next week, same schedule, talking about NFL as we get down closer and closer to the playoffs. Reminder to also follow Dash Sports on social, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, as well as subscribe to the Dash Sports YouTube channel to check out everything else that we have going on.